now with Republican Congressman Peter Hoekstra, ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, who has said in the past that Speaker Pelosi is destroying morale at the CIA. Quote, she has single-handedly become a wrecking ball, a wrecking crew through the morale of the intelligence community. These are people that have been on the front lines. They have been seen their friends die. They have taken risks to keep America safe. And this speaker has now said you may be prosecuted. The congressman joins me now live from his home state of Michigan. Thank you so much for your patience with us today, Congressman Hoekstra, in getting through this. Let's talk about what you've said in the past and how the House Minority Leader, John Boehner, has said that Pelosi's charge needs to be investigated.
Well, I think so. You've got the third most powerful person in the free world categorically saying a week ago that the CIA has systematically lied to her and implying that they've lied to Congress over a period of time. That is a pretty serious charge. We rely on them to give us specific and special insights as we form public policy. If she really believes that they have lied over a long period of time, we do need to investigate that.
The CIA Director Leon Panetta has acknowledged in a letter to the House Intelligence Chairman that the CIA's list may not be completely accurate. He said, in the end, you and the committee will have to determine whether the information is an accurate summary of what has been submitted or of what actually happened. Are you satisfied? You went over and I think looked at the 2002 transcripts. You're the only member that is at least known to have gone over to Langley and looked at it. Are you satisfied that those notes are dispositive, or is there a possibility of misinterpretation?
Well, I think any time that you've got a written record of what may have happened and you don't have an actual transcript or something like that, different people may read different things into the notes, just as they've read different things into the summary that has been made public. I think that the only way you're going to get even close to an accurate record is if you make the memorandum to the file of what happened in the meetings. You need to make those public, and you also need to make public the pre-briefing notes and memos and emails that the CIA used to prepare for those meetings. Then I think you'll have a better idea as to exactly what happened.
Let me ask you about the debate that we were witnessing yesterday, this extraordinary national security debate between the President of the United States and the former Vice President. The President saying that he wanted to try to reach consensus, clearly trying to find a middle ground here. The Vice President had a very different view of what the President is trying to achieve. Let's watch.
The administration seems to pride itself on searching for some kind of middle ground in policies addressing terrorism. If liberals are unhappy about some decisions and conservatives are unhappy about other decisions, then it may seem to them that the President is on the path of sensible compromise. But in the fight against terrorism, there is no middle ground, and half measures keep you half exposed.
What side do you take? Is there value in trying to reach a middle ground? Isn't consensus and bringing the two sides together what governing is all about?
Well, I think that, number one, governing is about being successful, meeting the objectives that you want, that you've established, and doing it within the framework of the law. That is what we're all trying to do, whether we're in Congress or whether we're in the executive branch. I think, remarkably, the thing that is being missed here is how similar the policies are that the Bush administration had in place that are now being adopted by the Obama administration. We have a surge in Afghanistan. We are continuing military tribunals. The president decided not to release the photos of alleged abuse of by American soldiers of detainees in Afghanistan and in Iraq. So there's a lot of things that are very similar. The president yesterday asked for the authority to indefinitely detain people without charges being brought against them, which is exactly, in many cases, what we've been doing at Guantanamo. The only difference between President Obama and President Bush is that I guess President Obama believes that some of the people at Guantanamo can have charges brought against them or can be moved back to their countries, but that when he's done, he will continue to hold perhaps just a smaller number of people than what President Bush did. There's a lot of similarity here, and I think If we try to oversimplify this into, 15-second sound bites, sure, we can find differences between the two administrations, but if you really actually look at the policies that they have in place, there are a lot of striking similarities.
Well, in fact, that is what has led to so much criticism from the left against President Obama, who are not at all happy that he's moved so far over. But to that point, perhaps, if you're correct, perhaps, Congressman, President Obama is more in line with the second Bush term than the first Bush term. Take a look at what David Brooks wrote in the New York Times today. David Ignatius was referring to this earlier, that Cheney is actually blasting the Bush administration. Quote, Cheney and Obama might pretend otherwise, but it wasn't the Obama administration that halted the practice of waterboarding. It was a succession of CIA directors starting in March 2003, even before a devastating report by the CIA Inspector General in 2004. When Cheney lambasts the change in security policy, he's not really attacking the Obama administration. He's attacking the Bush administration. In his speech on Thursday, he repeated in public a lot of the same arguments he had been making within the Bush White House as the policy decisions went more and more the other way. Fair point?
Well, I think it's a fair point, except the first Bush administration went through very, very different times than what the second Bush administration went through. When waterboarding was used for the three individuals, we didn't know a lot about Al-Qaeda. We didn't know what their capabilities were. We didn't know what the impending threats might be. And so there were a series of decisions that were reached. In the second administration, as we had better insights into Al-Qaeda, as we had more penetration into their organization so that we had a better insight as to exactly what they were planning to do, what their capabilities were, the tactics that the Bush administration decided to employ, they morphed into something else because the extreme enhanced interrogation techniques they deemed were no longer necessary because we had the insights that we needed. And so, I think that, we're moving through a period of time and we're seeing strategies evolve. We shouldn't be surprised by that, that the decisions that were made immediately in the aftermath of 9/11, that those policies were changed 2 years later, that those policies were evolved again 2 to 3 years later, and that now the Obama administration may be evolving them again. But I think what we need to be very, very careful about is going back and judging the decisions that were made in 2002 and 2003 against the conditions and the environment that we now find ourselves in 2009.
Now, let me ask you, Congressman, though, whether you think that some compromise can be reached with both parties coming out so strongly against having any of these detainees coming to the United States. What is wrong when you have maximum security prisons where people do not escape? We've had terrorists in our prisons in this country for as long as I can recall. I can recall going back to the Blind Sheikh and before and after the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. What is wrong with having some of these detainees come here? Doesn't the president have a point?
Well, I'm not sure what the president's point really is. I'm not sure why we want to move them here. Number one, I think the details are, everybody's talking about this high security prison outside or in Colorado, outside of Denver, in a remote part of Colorado. My understanding is that that facility is almost at capacity. It couldn't hold the detainees from Guantanamo. The question is, what national security objective are we satisfying by closing Guantanamo? It is the best facility. They get excellent care. They get excellent health care. And it is a secure facility designed especially to deal with the special circumstances that these radical jihadist prisoners pose to us in detention facilities. Putting them into maximum security facilities with criminals who have been convicted through the courts, this is a different type of population. How does it help our national security to move them to Guantanamo? How do we protect the communities, guards, and those types of things that may become targets? I mean, we just this week, we arrested 4 jihadists in New York City that it appears we're going to blow up a Jewish synagogue. You know, there were lots of good reasons to move them and to build the facility into Guantanamo. What has changed that says they can't be in Guantanamo? We ought to take the risk and move these individuals into the United States. There really is no good reason to close Guantanamo.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. To be continued. Thank you so
Okay.
much, Congressman, for joining us.